morning, Craig Miller, 711 East Front Street, Suite A. And I guess with extreme reluctance, I'm coming forward here because I have to announce to the crowd that I am the local counsel for the developers. So my comments will be from her point of view. But the comment that I wanted to make simply is that you are not here today addressing this project. And that is where an enormous amount of the confusion has arisen as a result of what has been in the newspapers and as a result of what has happened here. This is an ordinance that affects the entire county. Problem with this ordinance is that it was in fact targeted at her project, and you cannot adopt an ordinance which is simply targeted at her property. You have to adopt an ordinance, and you had to adopt an emergency ordinance that covers the whole county. This ordinance covers the whole county, not this project. This project is subject to an enormous number of other processes, but this is not the appropriate one. I support the repeal of this ordinance as a matter of proper planning policy. Thank you.
To those comments, it's a great time to remind everyone that we shouldn't have any clapping because it hurts the clerk of the board's ears. Figuring nobody would be clapping for Mr. Miller, that would be a safe time to remind everyone.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
But it does come across and as possibly causing some ear damage to our clerk when you clap. Our recording system is so sensitive. So if you could take that into consideration. I think we have a general sense of probably where most people stand on this issue based on your reactions. We do have other comments, so yes, sir.
My name is Angus Anderson. I live at 367 Montero Drive in a 55 plus community. I am a native of Texas, born and raised there. And I can tell you, if you want to know what the description of the word sprawl is, go to Texas. The city of Houston has no zone, absolutely no zone. And with the growth of most metropolitan areas like Dallas and Fort Worth, where they just ooze out and absorb bedroom communities and so on and so forth. So, as a resident up here, I see the maps, I see how they're marked. But if you don't follow what you set it up as a designation, then what's the purpose of even having the zoning? If you're going to keep chipping away at it and allowing this and this and this, then it doesn't mean anything to be residential. It's just a farce. And I don't want it to see what Texas has become. That's why I live here, not there. And that's all I have to say. Don't make a joke of your own zoning ordinances. And that's what you seem to be doing, allowing this, this, and this, and this in these areas that you have for residents, but now you want commercial this, vacation that, Airbnb, D&Bs. So what's the purpose of actually designating something if you're not going to follow it? That's all I have.
Anybody else have any comments?
Bill Brigden, 1964 East Twin Bay Road. I am partially repeating myself, but I'd like to emphasize we have some basic legal issues. We now currently have an applicant defining a buildings classification to, as the headline on the plans calls this a residence, is ludicrous. If it looks like a duck, has feathers and quacks, it's probably not a residence. We're allowing the applicant to define the purpose of rooms, the room classifications. So we very carefully kept 5 bedrooms in this building, despite the fact that anybody who's looked at those plans can recognize that you could have as many as 20 bedrooms. Sleeping chambers, whatever you choose to call them, you now have a lot of residents. Again, whether they're permanent or temporary, we're talking about a lot of density. Naming a room something like a chart room is much like having drinks at the Twilight Lounge. I'll meet you in the Twilight Lounge I'm gonna retire to my sleeping chamber called the chart room. It's still a bedroom. Our friend, Mr. Miller, stood here, whatever it was, 1 or 2 weeks ago, and talked about definitions and how poorly defined so many of these, excuse me, so many of these ordinance clauses were. Rural character is one that stands out in my mind. A glass, aluminum, and concrete building that shows 3 stories above the ground and covers 32,000 square feet does not strike me as anything approaching rural character. I joked last time I spoke about the idea of pornography. I don't know what it is, can't define it, but I recognize it when I see it. This is a hotel, full stop. We're looking at a hotel here, folks. So repealing this one ordinance and approving the replacement ordinance is simply a start at dealing with the potential for this future, for a future application of a similar building permit throughout the county. There is nobody living next to an R2 classification that wants a 32,000 square foot building being erected next to them. To say that this is a targeted ordinance is hogwash. Mr. Miller's client has turned in a building permit, which to the best of my knowledge has been vested and is in the process of being reviewed to comply with all those other ordinances and regulations that he identified. The fact that this is a hotel with 25 toilets looking to put a septic system in geared to 5 bedrooms tells me that there's a lot of funny stuff going on. I certainly wouldn't want to live next to that swamp. I personally have had septic systems fail. Lived with them all my life, and I've seen them fail. It's not pleasant for either the folks involved or for anybody nearby. I speak in support of the replacement ordinance, and I speak in support of supplying whatever legal advice and support is necessary to clearly identify to our future appeals, which appear to be likely, for the declaration that this hotel does not meet rural character or any of the other significant ordinances, rules, and regulations that it must follow. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good morning. Dennis Randall, 181 West Iowa Road. I do not live in this area where the structure is being proposed. I live on the other side of the county, but my cousin lives there. And so I viewed this from her perspective and mine as alarming when I heard this proposal. We built a large barn that's about 1/8 the size of this structure, and we have a 20+ acre parcel. I cannot imagine living next to this, but it just does not seem to be a proposal that the applicant has been open about, really, its intended use. So I spoke for the emergency ordinance, and I'm going to support the interim controls. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak just on the repeal of the emergency ordinance? Seeing no one, unless there's objection, what I'd like to do is just open the next public hearing. Let's close this public hearing, but delay action, and then have the next public hearing would be probably the best course of action.
Okay.
So a motion to close the public hearing on emergency ordinance 919.
So moved.
Moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So unless